All right, welcome everybody to the comic panel. I'm Cody.
I'm Talon.
I'm Jacob.
And I'm Shawenta.
And today we are covering the Kingstone Bible, Volume 1, The Beginning. It is written by Art A. Aris and Ben Avery, penciled by Danny Bulanadi, Jeff Slemons, Mike Lilly, Jeff Isherwood, inked also by Danny Bulanadi, Jeff Slemons, but also with Jeff Hewitt and Joe Rubenstein, colored by Joel Chua, Tom Chua, Andrew Crosley, and lettered by Zach Matheny. And design goes to Ken Rainey, Nate Butler, and Zach Matheny. So this is the next installment in our historical comics theme.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, as it self-describes, the most in-depth comic book version of the Bible, the Christian Bible.
Yep. I think there's the Action Bible, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, that
might have come after this.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard.
I did see when I was looking up this book, there was some discussion on which was better to get your kid, the Action Bible or the Kingstone Bible.
Mm-hmm.
What do they recommend?
It depends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fighting it out.
Yeah. So to get into a little bit of like the history of some of these people, Art Aris. Thank you. Art Aris. He is actually the founder of and CEO of Kingstone Studios that puts out this these Christian-centered comics. He's also done similarly Christian films.
Did not know that.
Yeah. Interviewed by multiple Christian outlets. That's kind of his deal, basically.
Trying to reach people with a new medium.
Yeah.
Not all their comics can be about the Bible, right?
Right.
Just,
yes.
As long as they're Christian themed.
Yeah. I mean, it is like basically kind of taking characters. Like, I mean, I'm looking here at a bunch of the. They're in alphabetical order. So starting with 101 questions about the Bible and Christianity, which is actually like.
That's pretty cool.
It's a fun idea, just like in some ways. Actually, that one's not alphabetical, but Rapture, Antichrist, Kingdom, Eternals, Abraham, Joseph, Moses, Exodus, David.
Wait, they got the name Eternals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wondered about that too. I saw that at a different point, and I was like, wait a second. I guess because it's probably because it's like they aren't specifically using Jack Kirby's Eternals, you know?
Okay, yeah, I guess that makes more sense.
Yeah.
We got Ezra, Jonah, Nehemiah, so the Old Testament prophets too.
Yeah, Revelation, Hell.
Ooh, Revelation, that would be a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of, that's all, or most of the comics, and then he has like 3 movies, one of it which is called Lincoln League, which like it has Abraham Lincoln on the cover, and okay. All right. But yeah, so that's Art Aris. Yeah, there's not a lot of like biographic information other than that, but he looks to be like kind of a older gentleman.
I like this picture that he has on his website. It's just like him sitting down.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, then there's his co-writer Ben Avery. Yeah, I'm not sure if here's about Ben. He's does comic books, novels, puppets,
Ooh.
animation, whatever. I wasn't quoting the full sentence there when I said whatever, but
wow.
Oh, he didn't say whatever. You're just like, whatever.
No. He said here. I'll quote the whole thing now. I love telling stories in almost any medium: comic books, novels, puppets, animation, whatever.
Gotcha.
But because I didn't say the first part when I said whatever, it made it sound really dismissive.
His first professional work was with George R.R. Martin. That is so interesting to me.
Taking his Hedge Knight novellas and turning them into graphic novel scripts.
Huh.
Worked for Image, Marvel, Zondervan.
That's a Christian publication, I believe.
Okay. He has a passion for all ages in storytelling. He co-created Time Flies and Armor Quest. More recently, adapting Bible stories in comic books. Just released his first novel, Ghosts of the Future, an old school feeling sci-fi novel.
Huh.
He's also begun editing some anthologies with other sci-fi writers. Writing is his passion. But I get to tell stories in my day job too. I'm a children's pastor in Northern Indiana.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah. I wonder how old this is, considering that, like you said, the Kingstone Bible came out before Action Bible, and he was like, "Oh, this is what I'm doing recently." I'm like,
"Oh, okay, yeah."
But
old is this book?
Yeah,
I think it was 2014, or at least that's when this copyright says.
Yeah. And then for the artists, Danny Belanity, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Belanity. He has a much bigger biography. He was born in 1946. He did pass away in 2022, unfortunately. Yeah, and as Talon just said, he grew up in grew up in the Philippines. And basically, yeah, for a while. He moved to the United States in 1975. He got work at DC doing titles such as Commandi, the Legion of Superheroes, and Weird War. Later, he started at Marvel Comics. He inked Pat Broderick, Gil Kane, and Butch Gucci on the Micronauts series. Because he was consistent and speedy, he inked stints for the Fantastic Four and Captain America. Later on, in 1988, he'd moved to Los Angeles, and he'd do storyboards for Hanna-Barbera's Johnny Quest cartoon.
Really?
And Marvel's productions of Transformers cartoon series. Also did stints in video game character design, as well as some commercial art. Yeah, and then he also enjoys like painting subjects like American Indians, Filipino folk life, and scenery. As of the writing of this bio, he had recently finished up the comic book adaptation of the Bible that we are covering today. And yeah, and then he retired in South San Francisco, California. He still paints and does commissions. He'd like to get back into the comics field, which is where he enjoys working best.
That's cool.
Yeah. Jeff Slemons. He has a little lemon to tell you how to say his name on his website. He's been an illustrator for 30 years. And yeah, he has art on display. He doesn't really say much else about himself, and there's no Wikipedia page or anything like that. And then Mike Lilly, he was a writer, he co-created World War II pulp adventure, The Mercury Chronicles, and did other illustration work for like New York Times and other magazines. He illustrated some Star Wars original art sketch cards for Topps. Topps cards. Did a bunch of other like kind of artwork for, Lord of the Rings, Frankenstein from Universal, the Complete Avengers collection for Marvel Comics, and then from 2002 to 2005, he was on a number of Batman-related titles, including Batman Special Number 1, Detective Comics 788 to 798, a series of Nightwing comics, and he did some Vampirella, as well as illustrating Annihilation Conquest Quasar miniseries for Marvel Comics. And then in 2008, he signed an exclusive contract with Dynamite Entertainment, for whom he did work on the series Black Terror. But yeah, that's
So these guys have like experience.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely do. Some more than others. And it's definitely an interesting, we've read things that have had multiple pencilers and multiple inkers, but usually it's like from this, page to this page, or this
Pretty
issue,
obvious.
This seems like, well, they just kind of all
did their own style.
Yeah, or worked. Yeah, they all worked on, different parts of it, I guess. But we'll get to that later.
I thought it would feel like, yeah, it's my turn now.
Yeah. Yeah, and second to last of the inkers, we have Jeff Isherwood. He's mostly done Marvel comics such as Silver Surfer, Conan the Barbarian, Daredevil, and Doctor Strange.
Dude, sick.
He was involved in movies as a storyboard artist and concept production illustrator, working for Bryan Singer, Richard Donner, and Darren Aronofsky. Painted design covers for Canadian publishers, Dead White Males, and Sand for Snow. I think that those are albums, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Illustrated and prepared the covers for the American novel Antiquitas Lost.
Yeah.
A selection of paintings based on Greek gods, which were featured in issue 59 of the publication Matrix. In 1997, he created Lincoln 16, a science fiction saga whose first 2 issues he wrote, drew, painted, and produced.
Wow.
Jeff continues to work in the comic book field on a number of independent projects. He's also a teacher. He taught advanced comic book figure drawing and concept art classes and workshops at Sin Studio Concept Art School from 2010 to 2013, an industry-focused art school based in Montreal, Quebec. In 2015, Jeff began teaching part-time at Algonquin College in Ottawa, Ontario.
Algonquin, I think.
Oh, Algonquin. Yeah, Algonquin College in Ottawa, Ontario, in the College of Media and Design. Yeah, and then Joseph Rubinstein.
Or Joe, for short.
Or Joe for short, yes. I feel like this is the name that I more recognized. I recognize this person's name. He started his career in the early 1970s as a teenager, primarily as an inker. He worked on Marvel, DC, Dark Horse. He first entered the industry as an assistant to Neil Adams. also worked on Commandi. He in 1982 inked the acclaimed Wolverine limited series. The first,
the series titled Wolverine.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
One of his most important works has been inking the official handbook of the Marvel Universe over the
Really?
span of 20 years, for which he
Wow.
holds a Guinness World Record of inking more pencilers than any other inker.
Wow.
I think this is a quote. I did an Inkers Roundtable for a magazine called Comic Scene, where Klaus Janson, Tom Palmer, Bob Layton, and myself all inked a Mike Zeck drawing. Mark Grunwald saw these and decided that mine was the clearest to understand what the characters looked like, not necessarily the best inked. And when I came back from the San Diego Con, Mark said, "We're doing this encyclopedia, and we'd like you to ink as many of the figures as you want." And I said, "I'll ink all of them," which turned into a gold mine and a godsend. And he picked me because he knew that I would not make a homogeneous look of it, and honestly think I chameleon my style enough.
Huh.
Yeah, he also worked on Micronauts, Jim Starlin's Warlock, and Aquaman with Don Newton. He later did Dark Horse Comics called Arch Enemies and co-inked issues of DC's Ion miniseries in Green Arrow, Black Canary in 2016. He was inducted into the Joe Sinna Inkwell Hall of Fame.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dude, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
A lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people and a lot of a lot of people working on this.
Collaboration.
Yeah, not even to go into the 3 colorists too, but I don't have bios for them.
Gotcha.
So is that for everyone who worked on the series or on the issue we read?
See, I guess, yeah, I don't know that for sure, but that's a good question, because what I was understanding was that this was everybody that worked on volume 1.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what I was thinking, dude.
Yeah. Perhaps, maybe there is only 3 volumes of this. So maybe it's like, okay, well, there's 3, basically Danny Belanadi.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny Belanadi penciled and inked this volume. Jeff Slemons penciled and inked volume 2. Oh, no, but there's 4 names.
Yeah.
There's 4 names each. So, yeah, no. I think that they all just worked on it, but we don't know what pages or what issues or what.
Dude, that is so cool. Actually, so while looking at the Kingstone Bible, all of the volumes that they have 12 of them, each part of, some of those that we had said before, like the letter, the Revelation. Being one of them.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, to clarify what I said earlier, too, there's 3, I guess, ultimate editions on omnibuses, that kind of thing.
Oh, so that would have encompassed all 12 of these volumes.
Yeah, I assume 4 volumes per big volume, but without having looked at the details. That's just, simple math.
Yeah.
But yeah, this volume 1, basically it just covers the stories of Genesis, Noah, and Job, right? That's
yeah.
Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in between that is talking about the Tower of Babel.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
Fall.
Mm-hmm. And
not in that order.
Yeah. And also Cain and Abel, and yeah, which, I mean, arguably part of Genesis.
Part of creation.
Yeah. But yeah, that's, I mean, I don't think that it's super necessary to really summarize more than that. The Bible, it's pretty well known.
Well, so this comic, starts off by, going along in order of like how the Bible is for the most part, with God being in the beginning and him creating the stars, creating the earth, and then the solar system, and then all the animals in it.
Yeah.
And then creating Adam and Eve. And then the next part is how the serpent came in and tempted Adam and Eve, and they ate the apple, and Eve ate the apple, and then it was like, "Here, Adam, it's good." And Adam was like, "Okay."
Did a woman do anything?
Yeah.
And so then then it goes into the curse that befalls the serpent and Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And the next part is just like, what happens to the world after that. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And then until we get to Noah, and God commissions him to build a boat. Now, what's interesting is like, some of these details are not explained in Genesis, but later in the New Testament. They're kind of expounded upon.
Gotcha. Yeah, I kind of wondered that a little bit. I was like, I haven't explicitly read, or at least haven't read this part in a while. But I was like, I feel like this has a lot more like, detail inserted in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely don't remember them talking about the perfect genes that let Adam and Eve live for like hundreds of years.
Yeah. In the scientific explanation that there was like less ultraviolet radiation.
Oh yeah, the water canopy.
Yeah,
that threw me. I'd never heard about that before.
Yeah. So a lot of those are more not explicitly found in the Bible, but kind of like, okay, how do we explain what the Bible says? And it's like, well, either they are, perfectly created.
Is it specific to this comic, or are you saying that this is just like a later revision of the Bible?
I'm talking, well, no, it's like a theory.
Did they come up with the water canopy?
No.
That's what I'm asking.
No.
Okay.
They did not.
Okay.
So that is a Christian, scientist, I guess, trying to explain how it's possible that man lived for hundreds of years in where we aren't living for hundreds of years now.
Yeah.
And so.
Also, why was it okay for everybody to just come from one man and one woman? Why is that? Why was that fine back then? But if you tried that now,
they explicitly explain it in the book.
And I did appreciate a little bit the editorializing of like, this will come up later with what's his name, Moses.
I forgot, what was that?
That like basically God will say like, you can't marry your close relatives anymore.
Gotcha. And so then it gets into the story of Noah and he and his family building a boat. And are they in Uz? I don't know.
No, I think Uz isn't until after the flood. That's where Job is.
Yeah. So I forget where Noah was, but just dealing with, they're building a boat to go into the water. They are nowhere near the water. That's kind of stupid.
Yeah, I thought the people that are supposed to be the bad guys are kind of funny. Just in that they're like, build a tower in a cave, or a lookout tower in a cave. And what was it? Something at the bottom of the lake.
the largest horse stable in the world.
Yep. And so basically, the ignorance of the townspeople are like, no, clearly you're going crazy. And it's like, nope, God said it, is what Noah is saying.
It was such an interesting moment to like stop on. I don't know, I feel like a lot of the previous chapter with Adam and Eve we don't get a ton of like scenes. So much as like, this is what happened, and we kind of see it a little bit, it gets explained in narration, versus like we get to see Noah's sons robbed,
Mm-hmm.
And we get to see them have like conversations and try to explain themselves.
Yeah.
To ignorant townspeople or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it really tries to ease in from like the just like Genesis, like origins of like, we're out in like cosmic with like basically like at the omniscient point of view. And then it's like, okay, now we're easing in with some perspective from Adam and Eve, but also we're kind of still like, it's more of a recounted perspective, like this is what happened, but not this is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then same with like Cain and Abel. But then once we get to know it, it's like, okay, this is what's happening. We're here.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, so they build a boat. And God tells them it's time to go, and he brings a whole bunch of animals. They're out here like, I don't know how we're gonna do this, and then God just like lines them up and sends them into the ark.
Yeah, because they're trying to like actually get like herd their sheep because they have sheep.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we know how to get all the other animals, but we have these animals. We'll try to put them on the boat.
And it was even like, what I got is that like, wow, they're acting weird today.
Yeah. Also, are pure animals ones with
clean animals?
Or clean animals? Are they just ones with white fur and feathers? Because that's okay. I was just like,
is the dove? Yeah, I guess the dove are the only ones that they say they have multiple stuff because they have 7 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, they might.
That was the part I had never heard before, where you get 7 of the clean animals and just 2 of the unclean animals. I just heard pairs for all of them.
Yeah.
It's a little confusing what that means. It's like, is it 7 of them or 7 pairs?
No, it's 7 of them because they sacrificed 1 at the end. Therefore, there's
that makes sense.
3 and
okay.
3.
Okay, I got you.
But also, I when they were talking about that, I did think that they were all like, and one of the clean animals is humans, and then they were all like, they were talking about sacrificing one of the clean animals, and I was like, do you have to sacrifice one of your own? And then they were like, no, we don't. And I was like, okay, I guess we're good.
So, from my knowledge of the Bible, clean animals is like animals that don't have hooves, that don't have hooves and don't eat, like live in mud or something like that. There's a very specific,
not pigs, not stuff like that.
Are those the Now this is like I'm a little bit ignorant of this, obviously, also, but these are the clean animals would be the things that are, gosh, what's the word? People of the Jewish faith can eat.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So
kosher is the word.
Yeah. That's as far as my understanding is. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, but yeah, somewhere in the Bible, probably, if I had to guess, Exodus or Leviticus would go into defining what a clean and unclean animal is.
Gotcha. Okay. That's good to know. Yeah. And also maybe explains why humans don't count as a clean animal, because
well, they're not animals.
Yeah. I guess.
So.
Well, not in the biblical sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, the flood comes in, and I don't remember all these details, but apparently it's like 150 days before they're able to send the bird out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like maybe like 100 days after that they can finally walk.
They're basically,
it said something like it was a total of like 376 days or something.
Yeah, a little over a year.
Seems unlikely, but
I mean, to me it makes sense.
Talking about a flood that covered up the world, so what do I know?
Yeah.
Would you expect it?
Go?
Don't worry about it. It's the
dried
water
up.
canopy.
It's dried up.
That's the thing. Is it just the water canopy falling and then we lose the water canopy? That sucks.
Interesting.
I want the water canopy back.
Should have told your ancestors to not be like really bad people. I guess.
Not sin. Just listen to God.
It was really funny for them to like watch them get in the boat, like the townspeople who don't believe Noah. And that they're watching them get in the boat, and they're like, "These guys are dumb." And then it starts raining, and they're like, "Oh man, this sucks."
They were
and
right.
the one guy where he's like, "Well, we're being punished because we're evil." Like, I'm not quoting them exactly, but it was so dramatic. in that moment, but also kind of like, oh, they're just going, I guess we're gonna die if Noah's right.
Yeah, actually
they kind of accepted it.
Right, yeah. That one person that you mentioned was like, it stands to reason that Noah will be right. Like, it just started raining a lot. Like, I mean, it's like the story, yes, he was right, but like it does not give to reason. You did not logic this out at all. Like
for being such a bad person, he accepted his fate pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Yeah,
which is very funny to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the floods reside. I don't know. Recede. There you go. Thank you. And then they're in dry land. They're having fun. And then Noah builds a vineyard and then gets drunk off that vineyard. Talk about getting high on your own supply. And then it just, goes into his son seeing him naked, and that's a sin.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
which I guess it's okay. It's just to establish that sin still exists after the flood.
Yep.
But I feel like it's such a weird way to say that sin exists.
They're going to be upset over Noah like drinking or getting extremely drunk, but then also he was like,
like if he got
his clothes, I guess, and that was like, is that the real sin? Like, which part are we supposed to be mad about more?
Yeah, I did appreciate, because I had the same feeling, but I did appreciate Noah's wife being all like, well, your son wasn't the one that like got you drunk or like, took off your clothes and stuff.
You any of this?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I'm sorry. It's really funny to me though, of like his son being like, "Oh God, he's naked," and he rushes to tell his brother. He's naked. I hate this.
Which is really interesting to me, because they get on his case because he didn't cover his father up. They were just like,
even at the end, Noah is like, well, I may have sinned, but he did too. It's Jesus.
Yeah.
No, he's not here yet.
I know.
Sorry, that was an easy
that was
joke.
Good. That was good.
No, it wasn't.
I didn't even catch
that.
I
exactly thought of it too.
But yeah, so then is this
around? Get here.
Okay. So then, just more about the Earth moving on over the future generations after after Noah. And honestly, I think so. And then we get into Babel.
Yeah.
And so Nimrod, one of the great grandsons of Noah, is basically great and wise to the people who are there. And they're like, let's build a tower. And then they start building a tower. And then, so this is interesting to me, because I never got this from the Bible. But they're taught, like, God visits them and is like, whoa, we need to scatter them, because the command was to, like, be fruitful and multiply and spread across the earth. That was new to me. I didn't know that.
Yeah, like, basically they were trying to create, like, basically like kind of the first like mega mall.
Yeah.
Just like,
and it was like, yeah, we can reach the heavens.
Yeah, I did only ever hear about like reaching the heavens, and that's what the problem was.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that the fact that it's directly against the spreading across the earth part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're just too lazy to travel at this point.
Yeah. But also it's like the solution doesn't doesn't feel super realistic to me, like where it's like, well, now they all speak different languages, so they're just gonna go somewhere else where, like, you know, the people that speak the same language are gonna go to the same places, but it's just like, no.
I mean, if you think about, like, who would I rather be with? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they might
someone
like
you can communicate with.
Yeah. They might break into tribes initially, but also they wouldn't go that far. Like,
oh, that's fair.
You know, it'd be like, and
I will say, like all of Europe.
Yeah.
And then we wound it up in America. I don't know how we swam.
Yeah. Yeah, that was also a thing where it was like, I understood why, and I wouldn't have changed it, but it was just kind of funny to be all like, oh, that one's like speaking French, and one of them is like obviously speaking like modern English because that's what the whole book is written in, you know. But it's just like, that's not the languages that would be there then.
Fair, yeah. And then what's interesting is that, you know, with this book is that it ends with them scattering and, you know, filling the earth.
I guess just walking to the countries where those
yeah
languages will be then.
Yep. And then it goes to Job, which in the Bible, Job is like several books later.
Yeah.
And so, but chronologically speaking, I can see where, like, Job chronologically is around this time.
Okay, I see. So it's taking a chronological rather than a thematic interpretation.
Yeah. And so then we get the story of Job. And so, you know, he's celebrating, having a party, like being like, he's a very righteous man, the most righteous that they know of. And part of that, he's like, oh, like, calm down. Like, I still am human like one of you. And eventually,
it's basically the devil, Satan, you know, he basically goes to God and is all like, hey, look, I was looking at this guy that follows you, and like, I think that he wouldn't follow you if bad things happened to him. And God was like, bet.
Prove it.
Yeah. And so basically, the devil was like, well, I won't harm his body, but like,
God said you can do anything but harm.
God's the one who's please don't harm his body.
But yeah, basically he's like, okay, I'll do that. And so he like just messes up his life. He gets like rid of all of his business prospects in like really bad ways, all of his servants, all of his camels. There's another thing that he has, I can't remember, but then also his family, his sons. I wasn't sure if he had daughters, but his sons.
He probably had daughters.
They are killed in a freak tornado. But then, you know, God is proven right, and but Satan is like, oh well, what if we did hurt his body then? I bet then he would curse you and cast you out. And so they're like, all right, God was like, I'll allow you to do that too. And so he puts like a bunch of like boils on his body basically that hurt. And
I like what God says is like, I will allow it, and he's talking to Satan, and he's like, I will allow you to harm his body, like put boils on him. You think you know the outcome, but I actually do, and it's far-reaching ramifications. It's like, and then Satan walks away and he's like, far-reaching ramifications indeed. It's like Satan thinks he's got him.
Yeah.
I guess like I really don't get it, because like you, Satan, should know more than anybody, since you used to work with God as an angel. Like, he's not making stuff up about being omnipotent. He knows how this is gonna go. He even says he knows how it's gonna go. So what's the point of making the bet?
You got me, Jake. That's the question.
Yeah.
Shouldn't at the point where God says, yeah, sure, do it, you just be like, actually, never mind, I was joking.
I'm not gonna do it now that you want it.
Hey, yeah.
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 I mean, it
if
is.
anybody is gonna, like, question God, it's Satan, right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's his whole thing.
Yeah, true.
It's
He's
true.
like, oh, you think you know so good.
Yeah. I will say that part did, like, kind of, it was a good example of, like, oh, I guess, like, I think that there's a lot of, like, kind of popular depiction of, like, God and Satan, like, in a kind of eternal battle of good and evil kind of thing. But it's like, they're kind of like, I mean, they weren't working together per se, but, like, I don't know, like, Satan just went into heaven and talked to him, though, too. Like,
yeah. It's like,
very low key.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's a battle, but it's also like God allows it,
Right.
Pretty much. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure God could just destroy him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
We're only fighting because I want us to fight.
Yeah. But so yeah, Job wakes up with these boils. His wife is
his wife is a little less faithful.
Yeah,
so she's like, just curse God and die already. Yeah, basically,
Give up.
in the biggest amount of grief ever.
Now, do you think Satan made her say that, or was she just like too in grief about losing literally all of her family except for Job?
Yeah.
I mean,
thought you were gonna say, like, she's just a bad person.
I mean,
well, maybe, I don't know.
In like the fact that she would say curse God and die, that seems very influenced by Satan.
Yeah.
But that's not necessary. That's just like
He stays
me.
married to her, not to spoil it, but he's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could have sworn that I heard that Job's wife had also died, but I guess that's not the case.
So too. Yeah, but I think I saw that she said that too.
Mm-hmm.
In like actually in the Bible.
Yeah, but
source
then
material.
Job leaves his home, goes out into the desert. His friends from the beginning track him down, and they're like, they do like a mourning tradition of like not speaking for 7 days and 7 nights.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're like, basically, I will talk about this a little bit more later, I think, but it was a little bit confusing to me sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, they are like trying to get him to admit that he has sinned and he deserves his punishments. Yep. And Job is like, no, I haven't. I really, really haven't.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about it. I didn't.
Yep.
But also in between that, he is like asking God, to speak to him and show himself and be all like, what is this about? Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And then it kind of, and also the youngest of his friends, I don't remember his name. Elihu. Mm-hmm. Is all like, hey, you guys are totally wrong. Mm-hmm. What does he say? Basically, he just talks about like all of God's like power and influence and stuff, and basically, that God isn't denying you anything. Basically, this is all supposed to be a lesson that like everything that God does is meant to be to turn you towards him.
Also kind of, he doesn't owe you anything. I don't know. Yeah, Job's like, why won't God answer me? I need him to answer me right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then then God is all like, all right, here, you can kind of just see like the universe and everything, including dinosaurs.
Well, he's like, Job, did you create the dinosaurs?
Right.
I'm just kind of looking at him. Did you
Which
create
was
the
weird
Leviathan?
to drop, like, in front of a man who has no idea what that is.
Yeah.
I made dinosaurs.
Hey, man, but you're like,
Not even
He
knowing what a
created that?
dinosaur is.
Trying
you're
to
like,
remind
whoa.
Job of his insignificance
yeah.
a little
Show him
bit.
Yeah.
space. You can at
Which
least
he
see the
did.
stars.
Which he did.
It's dinosaurs was a weird poll. Also leviathans, which are
I thought it was pretty
not
cool.
real,
Yeah.
They're still
as far
cool.
as we know.
Yeah.
Not
well,
real.
isn't there?
Well, it's
Is there a
it's a
book
sea
of the Bible
dinosaur, right?
called Leviathan? That's like a. Why does that?
I don't know.
sound
It
like
could just be a
biblical?
big whale.
That might be, like, not the Christian Bible.
Huh.
I'm not sure.
Okay, I don't know. That word seems really familiar in a biblical sense to me. But
I mean, I'm sure that's the term for serpent. I'm sure they're related.
maybe
Never.
that's it. Okay. Huh. Yeah, and I know that they were talking about the story. Like, they were all like, pagans believe in, like, eclipses when the Leviathan, like, covers the sun or something. Which, actually, thinking about it now, saying that out loud, it's kind of funny that it's like, well, wait, if the Leviathan is real, doesn't that answer the pagans then? A little
That
bit?
they're right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or not maybe not fully, but just that they're right about something. And it's
Yeah,
like...
yeah.
But okay, whatever. We'll just skip past that.
Saying that, well, he's reminding of his insignificance, right?
mhm.
In some ways, it feels like because Job is so centered on his struggle
Yeah.
in a kind of selfish way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this sucks. God, tell me why.
Mhm.
And all his friends are like, well, you probably did something wrong. That's the only reason it would happen. And Job is like reminding them the entire time that bad things happen to good people too. We've seen it plenty.
Mhm.
That doesn't explain this. I need an explanation.
Yeah.
And God's like, calm down.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to give you an explanation.
Mhm.
Which, yeah. And so it ends with God, like, saying to the three friends of Job, not Elihu, you misspoke of me. And so Job is going to make a sacrifice for your sins, and you're going to repent. And then everything, and
Everything
move on
will
from
be
there.
good again.
Yeah. And so then he reunites with his wife. They make the sacrifice, and what does it say? And he blessed him.
Yeah, it says he gets blessed like twice as much as he was
Mhm.
in
He
his
gets even
younger
more
years.
than he had before.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, also on that last page, I just saw that Satan's ghostly form is like in the background.
Oh wow, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's like, okay.
Hanging out.
Yeah, just hanging out. He likes Job.
I was like,
Well,
dang,
he
I
likes-
lost.
Bothering the best, the
Mhm.
most faithful of
Mhm.
God's. That's
Yep.
the whole idea, right?
If you can get them to believe that they're not loved or anything like that, then he's got that.
You got
That's his-
everybody then.
That's his bread and butter.
Mhm.
Yeah,
If he gets him not to believe, then everybody else is a piece of cake.
yeah.
Bet one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Job in the end, Satan didn't win the bet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Job never cursed God's name,
Right.
Yeah.
but he did kind of demand a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, it also, I don't know, it seemed weird. Like, I guess it wasn't in the terms of the bet, but I'm like, God spoke to him.
Yeah.
It was like, that's like directly, like,
Yeah.
like, and like, that seems like, I don't know, like it actually goes back to what, I think one of Noah's kids said, during that part of it, it was like, well, God only like directly spoke to Noah, what if like the other townspeople, or if he spoke to them, and I kind of agreed with that actually, like, the other brother was all like, oh, well, they just still would believe what they believe because like they should have listened to Noah. But it was like, I don't know, I feel like you would have gotten some of them if like they heard a disembodied voice, you know, like
Thing of like, what if he didn't speak to Noah directly? Then would Noah have believed?
Yeah.
Oh, but then how do you tell him to build the boat if you don't like?
Well, you tell somebody
him.
else to build the boat, you know.
And that's the prophets.
You tell somebody else to tell him to build the boat.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you leave a bunch of sticks around and kind of
that is what like in the Bible, like that's how God spoke to the Israelites, was through prophets, and that was their job.
Mm. And they did believe the prophets.
No.
More
often not than.
Yeah. So Noah was basically the first prophet.
Yes. I think that's true.
Okay.
That or Moses. But
okay.
I'm pretty sure Noah would be considered first.
Yeah. But I'm just like, yeah, if you just talk to everybody, I feel like, you know, maybe not everybody would believe, but I'm like, but then they could like, you know, cross, you know, they could both talk about their experience and be like, yeah, I heard that. You heard that? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
if you talk to everybody, isn't the problem like that not everybody deserves to get on the boat?
Yeah.
You'd have to build a bigger boat if you bring in more people.
Yeah. It's true. There is like the impulse for Noah's sons to want to save you know, the other people are just like, you know, from the goodness of them, you know, not wanting them to die, but also that is apparently, you know, the righteous punishment that they deserved in terms of the story.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
But you know, that going back though, so to Job, where I was, you know, coming with this, it does seem a little bit like God intervened a little bit, you know, by speaking directly to him.
Yeah.
With the terms of the bet, even though it wasn't specifically stated that he couldn't. It's a little bit of Air Bud rules.
Where what? I don't get that.
Sorry,
I got that.
There's no rule saying a dog can't play basketball.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's no rule that you can't speak directly.
Yeah. True.
But yeah, it does seem a little unfair. But whatever, you know, you're all powerful, you're all knowing. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, you know, we kind of started, but, you know, and throughout, but getting into like our likes and dislikes of this, and kind of staying in the realm of the story of Job, actually, there gets to be some weird panels that like usually are reserved for like maybe intense action or like, you know, drama, which I mean, maybe that's what it's trying to instill, but I do not get that from it. Like all of these jagged, you know, like basically like broken glass panels.
In which section?
In Job, when he's in the desert.
Oh, I think they were trying to mix it up because that section's really long with Job going back and forth.
Yeah, that does make sense for why, but I was also distracted by it. It was like these panels are, I guess, yeah, they're doing the job of making it more visually interesting, but I don't see why they're doing it for a storytelling reason. It's like, oh, otherwise this will just be boring. You know, it's like, well, that's not. That just means that you have a boring story then. Like, yeah, I guess you could be more visually interesting also by like maybe drawing what they're talking about more than like just talking heads. But yeah, I mean, also I think that it's visually interesting enough with the angles that they take sometimes too. You know, there's a lot of like interesting point of views, like Job's foot, and then like a interesting, like it's not quite over the shoulder, but like I'm on page like 110 on the version that I'm on, but it's like Job, like it basically, if the camera was at Job's shoulder, but it was still has his head higher in the frame and his friend's head lower in the frame. It's all like a lot of it's a lot of like interesting kind of stuff. And then the jagged panels though, I'm just like, whoa. This is like extreme late 90s, early 2000s, you know, like extreme, yeah. It's the extreme Bible. Yeah. So that was kind of just like, what? Yeah, and then just like general, like kind of we talked about things that seem logically inconsistent to what I expect from the Bible, because I don't want to judge, you know, what is just, you know, like the what this is based on, you know. I'm judging the comic book as an adaptation, not the Bible itself. But yeah, there are things where it's like, this seems weird, you know. Like, I mean, we mentioned multiple, the dinosaurs, the just like the chronology of things. Inserting, you know, certain stories that might have been told later, or, you know, certain things that aren't there at all, but it's like, well, that's kind of what we, you know, expect. I don't know. Perhaps that's maybe makes it a better adaptation, and that it's like, okay, we're really, you know, putting in a lot of different stuff from other areas of theology. But yeah, that's kind of criticism. Also, given that they were, you know, glad to do that, basically, there's also a lot of like assumed information, kind of because they are going, or I guess I have to assume because they're skipping around, but maybe it isn't. But like, they just when they talk about the serpent, they're all like, yeah, angels, and I'm like, okay, if I'm just reading this, I don't know what an angel is. What's an angel? Why you just, and now there's a fallen angel? What does that mean? Like, like, that's very unclear. And then like, yeah, and then we see the kingdom of heaven with like all the angels and stuff, and it's like, God lives somewhere? When?
Yeah.
Last time I saw him, he was just 3 floating balls of light.
Yeah.
It's super interesting that, I know it's like from directly, but God walking through the garden.
Yeah.
And Adam and Eve like run away at that moment. We never see him.
Yeah.
And then they have the angel guarding with the flaming sword, right?
Yeah.
And because you don't get to that line until like later in the page, I'm like, is that God? Did they just depict God?
No, yeah, that's Michael? No.
I don't know.
He
But
has
they didn't specify, but it's specified in the book.
It's specified because it's in a lot of those, like, you know.
Well, not in this book is what I mean. They didn't specify in this book.
Yeah, they don't. But it's in like, that's the character in Good Omens, and it's also, he's a character in Supernatural and stuff. All the like kind of
Michael.
Fictional stuff that deals with biblical stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if that is Michael, but
yeah, or maybe it's Michelangelo, or is that the same person? I don't know, no. Yeah,
it would be Michael. No,
it would be Michael. Okay,
yeah. Michelangelo is the painter.
Yeah. Okay, I know that there's a Michelangelo, but it's like, maybe there's an archangel also. People have the same names. There's Abraham the president and Abraham the
fair enough.
Yeah.
I kind of liked how they didn't do what I expected, which is like, you know, go into the story of Abraham, which I guess makes sense because that would be a long story. So it'd be like its own volume.
Yeah.
But they went into Job, and so it's like, Oh, I didn't expect that, but
Yeah. Does it seem to make sense in terms of like having a cohesive kind of narrative? Because it seems like the general theme of this book is, well, yeah, actually, I feel like Genesis and Noah go together really well. But yeah, Job is a little bit more about having faith, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't the Noah one kind of about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also about punishing sinners and about like, sin, and it's about like, sin still existing after the flood.
Mm-hmm.
It is about...
Oh, that's true. And then Job is like, he's not getting punished, actually.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, the only thing I would think about, like, thematically is maybe where each story reveals something about God, where it's like, God created like everything, so creation, then, like, God made the flood happen, like how powerful he is.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I guess that's kind of like what I would expect for every story, though. So like, in terms of like, okay, this is where we cut off the volume, though. It's like, what does this say altogether?
That's fair.
And like you said, like skipping Abraham, and going to Job instead. It's like, what is the reasoning behind that? I'm not sure if I can really say for sure. I'm kind of, yeah.
Okay, so speaking about Job, though, I really liked what he said, where he's like, God didn't answer me in the way that I expected, but he answered me in the way that I needed. And I was like, oh, that's really good. Just like how many times in my own life, like
you mentioned that, and then also the way that like Satan responded to God earlier, and I don't know, I feel like, to me, I've heard those things enough times in like, just like, in media, in real life, and like, like sermons I've heard here and there. It's like that, it just seems like kind of like, trite isn't the word I want to use. It's just kind of cliche.
Typical?
Yeah, it's cliche and typical. It's like it comes off like, oh, this isn't new, like, at all. Like, it's so pervasive across the world. It's like, like, it's like I can't really criticize it.
Well,
because
if you
it's...
read this when it first happened to Job,
right?
You would have really.
If you were there when this happened to Job.
Well, if you had heard about it in town and then like got to read this, you'd been like, "My God, what he went through." More seriously, at first when we were going to like the whole Job thing, in the comic, as I was reading it, I was like, "Oh my God, why does he keep arguing with them?" And just like the back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I felt at first it felt a little bit tedious, but I actually kind of enjoyed them arguing. Even though I found some of it a little bit hard to follow, I thought it was interesting the different points they were trying to refute, even though we're told that Job's friends are kind of just saying the same thing again and again, which they kind of are. But yeah, I found it interesting despite the fact that it's a pretty drawn out scene. Like, it takes up a good chunk of the book.
Yeah.
Versus, like, I did not super love the beginning section because of course it's kind of just a how do I say it, like, it's on tracks, like, okay, this has to happen, we kind of know. With the Noah one, we get to go a little bit more in depth. We see them interacting with people who don't believe in what's going to happen. Those little moments I liked, especially the Job one. You always hear kind of the pared down thing, so getting to see it happen
Yeah.
Like, we even see from the point of view of his kids being hit by, like, a tornado and not surviving.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. I liked the little fleshed out details like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But yeah, the
I liked that too. That did remind me though, in the brief section that was the Cain and Abel story.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been told, although we've been, there's things like the 7 animals instead of just all 2. There's things that we maybe misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
But I always heard Cain killed Abel with a big rock. Right?
Big rock,
yes.
Not a weird knife.
Yeah. But then
here's the rock,
not
star of the show.
But then it's also like that panel has, like you said, a weird knife on his neck. But then it's also he's holding his head, and there's the sound of crack. And I'm like, did he just snap his neck? Or did what?
Yeah, the Cain and Abel section I'm like about.
Yeah. It was just
not even just that moment, but like the trying to see why Cain did it. Like, I didn't feel like it was communicated that he was jealous.
Mm-hmm.
So much as God was like, your payment sucks. I hate fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating, of course.
I guess it's less that. It's like Cain, or what? It was Cain who was the herder, right? Or am I mixing that up?
Yeah.
So like he gave up the firstborn, and it was like known to be like would be a good sheep if they let it grow up. But then
sorry, it was
Abel just chose.
Abel
Are you talking about Abel, the animal one? Abel's with animals and Cain's with vegetables.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cain just gave up, like, here are some vegetables. Like, he didn't give up, like, the whole plant or anything, I guess.
Yeah.
It wasn't as important. Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's just not communicated, though.
That's still, like, why does God care what the sacrifice is?
Well, I'm interested. He, like, you give up something properly, you have enough not generosity.
Faith. Like,
but yeah,
you believe, kind of thing.
I don't know. I guess okay. The part that
you
gets
gotta
me
give
is
up something good. You can't just give like a sucky gift.
I guess the part that gets me, which isn't a fault with this book, but it's like it talks so much about sacrifices, and maybe it's a New Testament thing, but we don't like do animal sacrifices anymore.
Yep.
Not in any church I went to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm missing out on the sacrifice church.
I mean, probably, but also no.
Well, the fact that I interpret it as God doesn't like vegetables.
Yeah. I agree about that, Shwenta. I was like, this seems weird. Like, we did not clarify enough.
What's wrong with it?
Yeah. What Cain did incorrectly.
What was his transgression?
Yeah.
And then, like, I get that he's jealous of his brother. I mean, because I already know the story. But I just assumed he was like, man, I wish I chose animals. And we had the two choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, like, to me, it said specifically Cain chose instead to bring what he wanted, some of his crop, which was, to me, it was like, there wasn't a sacrifice there. It wasn't like
I get that once you explain it, and that makes sense, but it's still not communicated in the comic properly enough, I think. That's fair.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just too subtle for me.
And maybe I know the story enough. That,
Yeah. It can be hard to judge something solely based on the adaptation when you know the original.
Yeah.
I mean, usually, actually, it's the other way around, where you judge it more harshly.
Yeah, no, I can see
they
that
left
too.
out this important detail.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, there was no water canopy in the Bible. You put that in there. What the heck?
Yeah.
Where's my water canopy?
Anyway, gosh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there was I don't know where to go from
They
there.
hit all the important stories. Like, what's next? I'm being facetious, by the way. But they did really hit like popular stories in the first volume. It makes me like, what?
Yeah.
What are they gonna do for the next 12 volumes?
Mm-hmm.
Other than Jesus, of course.
I think. Well, actually, I don't. Oh wait, no. I guess they do that.
Yeah. So volume 2 is called the Patriarchs.
Yes. So those are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Okay, gotcha.
So that'll be interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Abraham is not its own volume. I was wrong.
Yeah. I almost forgot what the word patriarch meant for some reason, and I was like, I was thinking of the word monarch, and I was like, wait, but there's already kings 1 and 2.
Yeah.
That's what a monarch is. You just put them in with that.
Yeah.
No, patriarch.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, was there any further feelings about the artwork?
Dude, I honestly did not expect the artwork to be as good as it is. Like, to me, it's like
it's better than I thought it would be. That is definitely a phrase.
So like, to me, it is just the right art, like, for, Ultimate Spider-Man, like, where it's just like,
style.
Yeah. So I was like, I love that. That's great. That hits the spot.
Sometimes those faces got not great, though.
Yes, yeah.
Sometimes there's a few panels where you're like, ooh.
Noah's sons have...
Noah's son, I was about to say.
Yeah, all 3
was it
of
Ham?
them. Well...
No, Ham's the young one.
Yeah. But...
The older one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're like really... Yeah, they're really weird.
Yeah. I feel like...
Really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they got a lot of wrinkles.
That had to have been a point when a different inker came on, I feel like.
It feels very flat, like they didn't understand what they were doing for that panel.
Yeah. Oh, man.
The one I'm thinking of.
Why did they always draw that brother so weird? Like, there was one panel where he was weird, and then I, like, flipped a couple pages, and I was like, that's a completely different kind of weird. But it's the same brother.
I don't like him. Okay, so yeah, there's some weird anatomy which comes out in, I think, like you're saying, the inking. I do think it's probably the inking, rather than the sketch. I just have a feeling. But also, the coloring, sometimes they did stuff on the wrong layers, and I can tell.
Aha. Man, I need to learn a little bit more about that. It's been a while, but I've heard you mention that in other books before. And, like, when I think about it, I can kind of imagine it, but because I haven't, played with it, I haven't done it before, I'm like, because, like, yeah, you can't color on a wrong layer in, like coloring something with markers or, other kinds of coloring.
Well, you can technically, like, paint over, like, the black line art or something by accident, right?
Right.
Which is, like, what they did in this case. They were doing some light, and it's super obvious that they painted over some of the black line art, and they didn't over some of it. So it's, like, really obvious to me. It was one of the Noah scenes, I don't remember.
Okay.
It happened, like, once or twice.
Gotcha.
I'll say, though, some of the later scenes with Job, they went for less of super dark line art, and I liked those, of course, because you get a little bit more variety. Like the scene of Satan up in heaven, that big splash panel. It's a little weird. I guess just because I don't know if this is what I would imagine it to look like, but I thought the presentation was kind of cool. All the super shiny armor. And the figures kind of done in a lot less of a dark line art. Yeah, there's just a lot more painterly, it feels like, at times. And those are nice.
Yeah. I can, oh, go ahead, Jake.
Oh, sorry. If you had something to say on that, then go ahead, because I was just going to say, the art was fine. I didn't have any, like, huge problems with it.
Okay.
I think the most impressive part was probably the beginning, though.
The most what part?
Like impressive or like stand out.
Oh, okay.
What are you referring to? Like this
Genesis, like going through like the Specifically space, basically. That was
okay,
pretty
the
much
space.
it.
You liked how they did space.
I like space, alright? Sue me.
I didn't say you were wrong. There's that one scene where like Adam is across the river and looking at the zebras and giraffes. And I'm sorry, but he's so big the way he's drawn.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different scenes in the Genesis one where I'm just like laughing at, because it's just a little bit before they find their feet, I feel like.
Yeah. That's fair. Why is a lion so small? I didn't even ask myself that question when I read that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, okay, this isn't about the art, I'm sorry, but there was one part that I was like, I guess I've never heard, this is going back, like, is this true to the Bible a little bit? I never heard that there was also an eternal life fruit along with the good knowledge of good and evil fruit next to each other.
What do you mean? I thought that was the fruit that they were not to eat.
No, there's two different ones. I didn't realize that there was a tree of eternal life and a tree of good and or knowledge of good and evil.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I think that so they have verses for on most of the pages corresponding to where like certain details are in the Bible. And so the verse that they listed specifically was not where God says that. But he says it right before he sends them out of the garden. Because he basically is like, great, now that they've sinned, right, we need to somehow get them out of here before they eat from the knowledge from the tree. And then he like cuts himself off and he's like, all right, you're gone.
Right, yeah. That's the thing is like, he didn't even say that they couldn't eat from the tree of eternal life in the first place, just the one of knowledge of good and evil. So like, dang, if only they had eaten that one first.
Yeah.
They would have been solid.
Well,
because I assumed that they were like, it's a thing you constantly have to eat from to have eternal life.
Oh, like the
Norse I was like, oh, that's what they're eating right now before they get kicked out and don't have eternal life.
Yeah. That'd actually be a better reason for why they could live so long, honestly.
Yeah, maybe. But I don't get that from the Bible. Well, at least specifically, it seems like
it's just like one.
It's a separate tree.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's like, from that perspective, it's like they've sinned. Oh, if they eat from the tree of eternal life, it's like now they'll live forever in sin, and that's not good. And so,
see, I kind of that's also a thing that, like, I've heard different, like, kind of interpretations, but specifically this interpretation kind of made it seem like there was like, well, now they have knowledge of good and evil, like me being God.
Yeah.
If they get eternal life, then what's to separate them from me?
Gotcha.
Like.
Yeah, I think some people have speculated that God would have allowed them to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil if it was that they chose him, right? So if they waited for him to reveal that,
I see,
on his timing, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
You're just more patient.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, that was just like kind of a weird little detail that was like, is that how it is? And yeah, okay, seems a little bit questionable. And if that is the case, then I'm kind of going to judge it as in terms of a adaptation. Yeah. I guess then kind of, is there any interest from you guys to read more of this series? And I guess in general, how did you feel about it in terms of its like its conveyance of as a historical document, I guess? Like in terms of our theme,
I mean, I probably wouldn't read more, just because, and maybe the other books are different, but this one is just kind of like rephrasing stories in a different way. Like, I think it should exist, but like, just personally, I don't find biblical stories very compelling.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I like know what I'm gonna say, but I don't remember.
Oh.
Okay.
Lost my train of thought. Okay. Going into this, I was like, oh no, I have to read about this all over again. I was like not looking forward to it. Reading it wasn't so bad. Genesis definitely tested me. But I ended up enjoying it more than I thought I would. Which it's not a high bar, but it wasn't bad. I liked the Job story.
Yeah.
As for reading more of it, what was I gonna say? Oh, they like messed up Cain and Abel story so much that I'm like, I don't know if I want more of this. They could have made it pretty dire. Like, I feel like they kind of skimp over the fact that this is the first death and is supposed to be pretty intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It felt kind of,
glossed over a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do more.
Gotcha.
Maybe I need the action one. It's got the word action in it.
Oh, the action Bible? Yeah.
Yeah. More intense.
It should be a big fight scene between Cain and Abel.
I was about to say for an American audience.
Yeah. I kind of sit in between you two. I just never really found Bible stories all that compelling either. But it wasn't bad to read for me, but I don't think I'm interested to read more either. It just didn't interest me enough to just kind of
No, I'm totally down.
You'd read more.
I enjoy this story.
You're gonna buy the omnibus, 700 pages.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. The story I'm really interested in reading is Revelation, because I just like it. Revelation is such a like, I don't know if the word is ethereal, but it's like very what's the actual word? Apocalyptic.
Right.
Is how it's defined.
Yeah. It is the apocalypse.
You need something intense.
Because it is the end of the world.
Yeah. And so it uses a lot of very like fantastical imagery, And so I'm like, translate that into a comic book, that's going to be something interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I have seen others' interpretation of Revelations. I have not seen the original read the original. So yeah, it's kind of tough for me to know like how that would be, but I would be worried that it would be very similar to Genesis in its conveyance of like, a very like outside perspective of what's happening, since it technically has yet to happen, basically.
I
don't know like how storyified it is, I guess.
I think that they would probably, so like the story of Revelation has a specific character in it that is witnessing everything that's happening.
Gotcha.
And so I think they would tell it from that perspective.
Okay. That's important to know. Yeah. Then that could be a little bit more interesting. I guess it's not so interesting that I'm like, actually, I want to. Actually,
we haven't met the main character yet.
Yeah.
Jesus?
No, the main character of Revelations.
I did mean Jesus, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You did.
I mean, like, throughout this entire series, each one is like a separate story, sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess God's kind of always there.
Yeah.
That was something I wanted them to touch on a little more, because they talk about I don't know why that reminded me of that. They talk about God as like a trinity, or like three as one.
Mm.
And like, I know that is like Father, Son, Holy Ghost, except technically the Son doesn't exist yet, but I guess he always existed.
Yep.
But besides the point, they didn't like mention that at all. They just kind of dropped God is three things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then never mentioned it again.
That was confusing to me too, especially like, you know, that wraps back into like the whole like angels are a thing, but we're not going to tell you about them. It's just like, yeah, this is how it is, and we're not going to talk about it.
Honestly, when I read that, I was actually very surprised that they did that. I was like, that is like theological, like if we're talking about obscure, like it's like that seems theologically obscure to me.
Yeah,
just like,
especially at this point, like it doesn't.
Yeah,
not to say that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't really affect any of the stories that we're told that he is a Trinity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's only one point where basically he's talking to himself, and it's like, don't worry, God isn't crazy. He's three people.
Yeah. But he's also one person.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like all the above.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's not unimportant theologically. It is very important. But it's just one of those things where it's like,
keep it in mind.
It's like out there. It's like,
no. It was surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After credits scene.
And I wanted to see I mean, we talked about him, but I wanted to see more of the guy with the sword, the fire sword. I think he's cool. If you're gonna do a comic in the the artistic form of like
Cody, please more of guy with flaming sword.
Yeah,
dude, I'm telling you, Revelation has got to have. It's oh my gosh, it's gonna be.
Do we get to see like Death and all those guys come in on horses?
No, I don't believe that is biblically accurate.
No,
but the seals,
and
the pale horse,
the seals, I remember that.
Yeah,
I don't remember the four horsemen being involved in Revelation.
Darn it!
But it has Jesus in a robe coming down on a horse.
Why doesn't he return as a new baby though? Sorry, actually, no. This is getting outside the realm of what this is.
But I'm telling you, Revelation is going to be really good.
All right. You'll have to.
How many books do you have to read before we get there?
I'm sure you don't have to read any of them. You just skip to Revelation.
That's true, actually.
Wow. Superhero comics are just the same. You just skip.
I was gonna say, Talon's a big fan of lore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all the time that we have for this show. Yeah, this has been our coverage of the Kingstone Bible, Volume 1. Next week we'll have another and final historical comic for us to cover. But until then, this has been the Comic Panel. I'm Cody.
I'm Talon.
I'm Jacob.
And I'm Shawenta.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Music, Spotify, or Podbean. You can support this podcast by sharing it with anyone you know and by rating and reviewing our podcast. You can also reach out to us with any thoughts you have on the things we talk about on Twitter at TheComicPanel1 and on Instagram and Facebook at The Comic Panel. We appreciate your feedback and look forward to sharing many more comic thoughts with you. Have a blessed day. Trust you.